For September 3rd, 2024 to order. Ms. Orozco, would you please lead us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary, can we please have a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Scott Funk, excused absence. Councilmember Liz Silva,
Present.
Councilmember Lorraine Worthy,
Present.
Councilmember Maria Orozco,
Present.
and Mayor Jose Rios.
Present. All right, we're starting off the evening with a presentation from our fire department. Mr. Busho, the floor is yours, sir.
Mayor, it's gonna be Chief Musio and myself
Okay,
doing
I
this
apologize.
slideshow real quick for you all. All right, so this evening we are gonna be just sharing a little bit about our Gonzales Fire Department infrastructure needs and where we're at. This is one outstanding need that if potentially Measure S were to pass, it's something we would prioritize. If it doesn't pass, we need to still figure out how we address some of these outstanding needs. So we wanted to share with you guys what we're up against in terms of budget and figure out how to fund some of these upcoming needs that we have. And so Chief Musio and I are just going to go through the presentation and share with you kind of where we're at in terms of the fire department. Next slide, please. So as you all know, the fire station was originally built in 1969. At that point, it was built to hold 3 fire trucks and all volunteer fire department. There was no staff directly being paid, or no full-time staff as part of the fire department. It was an all volunteer crew back then. In 2007 is when we began to hire full-time firefighters, given the need and just the response times and responses that were needed, just required us to have a more full-time staff on board. And the station was never really meant to house overnight staff. So you'll see some of the conditions that we have. Chief Musio is going to share a little bit about where we're at in terms of our where we house our firemen and some of the issues that we have, just because again, the building is so old and it hasn't been retrofitted since it was built. Next slide, please. As you know, our fire department is our first responder, and they respond to about 65 calls on a monthly basis. They cover 57 square miles, including the city and the surrounding area, rural area district. Fire is responding to all emergency medical calls that we receive, and 65% of those calls are medical. So somebody falls, hits their head, or somebody, breaks a leg or anything, really feels dizzy, they are our first responders here in town. And we rely on them for that support and help. Mr. Musio is going to go through some of the other outstanding needs and explain a little bit more in depth into each one of them.
Good evening. So first we talk about the fire trucks that are needing replacement. It's not new information for you on the council. Our trucks are pretty old. They're both over 17 years old. The one that we're running first out right now was actually purchased used a few years ago from Monterey County Regional. It's I don't even know how many miles it's got on it. I don't want to look. A lot of breakdowns. You guys see the bills. You guys approve the warrants. You see how many bills are going for Skinner equipment and places like that. We're over budget on our equipment repair costs quite often. So that's a biggie with us, is funding for replacing that apparatus. Next, the fire station itself, we need a new roof. A few years ago, we had that pretty severe leak during the winter storms. Public Works had SSB, so they steel builders come in. They did a temporary repair. on the part that was leaking. But overall, the entire roof area, this is the area over the office space. Need the flat roof, not the sloped roof, but the flat roof over the office space, that needs replacement. That's roof is original to the building in 1969. Next, we talk a little bit about the office space. Everybody's kind of been in the fire station, you know, they've got the little office area there that's right off the apparatus bay. We need to find a way to separate the two things from each other. And that's, part of that is to help limit our personnel's exposure to diesel exhaust and those types of things. If you imagine having your office in your garage, every time you start your car, the exhaust comes, that's kind of what we deal with there in the firehouse all the time. So when it was just me there, it was kind of different, but now we've got more personnel there on a daily basis that use that space. So I think it's important that we start trying to find a way to separate the two functions within that building a little better than what they are now. The next two kind of go together, the need for more storage space for supplies and removing the old barbecue pit. So the storage is a premium in the firehouse. We have some cabinetry and stuff that we have along the walls, but even if you gave me another cabinet, I don't have a wall to put it on. So, you know, everything's taken up. We need to clean that area out. We need to update that whole space, starting with removing the barbecue pit, creating a workspace where we can actually work on things and do things, and then add some cabinetry along that wall, and probably get that hose rack relocated as well, so we free up some more space there in the back room. We're running out of room. We keep a lot of stuff in our container room at the public works yard, but that kind of gets problematic, having to go back and forth to get things when we need hose, extra hose, or you know, whatever. There also needs to be, to the building itself, there needs to be some repairs done due to the termite damage. You can see the best examples of that if you just look out in the front of the building up at the beams, and you can see where the termites bored through and caused rot. And then also inside in the apparatus bay or in the engine bay, the ceiling that had the hard pine boards, there's a lot of termite damage in those as well. And then kind of last on that, for the station itself, the sleeping quarters, you know, I think it was mentioned in the first slide, the firehouse was never built to house people 24 hours a day. So when we made that transition, we utilized that trailer that was in the back lot. Well, some of you will remember how that trailer came to the firehouse. It was actually owned by the WestMed Ambulance Company, and it was moved in there in around the year 2000, maybe 99. That was supposed to be an ambulance quarters. WestMed only had the contract for, I think, about a year, and then they got pushed out. Well, they left the trailer in place. So that's almost 25 years old now. So, so that's another issue with, as far as, you know, sleeping quarters and arrangements for the guys to stay when they're doing the 24-hour shifts. And again, needing to be separate and away from the engine bay. We don't want the guys sleeping right next to where the trucks are going in and out. Next slide. Oh, thank you. So as far as like the equipment and supplies go, you know, one of our big needs is we need to get new PPE, new turnout sets for everybody. Every person on the department should have 2 sets. That's so that if one becomes contaminated or dirty, they can switch out to a separate set and remain in service while that other set is being cleaned. Right now, we don't have that for everyone in the department. And right now, to give you an example, a set of turnouts right now is running close to $8,000 a set. That's the quote I just got for Jeremy's stuff the other day. It was almost $8,000. So that gets pretty expensive. 6 guys, not counting myself. I don't need 2 sets anymore, but you know, the 6 of them needs 2 sets. That's 12 sets of turnouts. Our extrication equipment, we need to get replaced. Well, we've got some good news on that. Next meeting, we'll be bringing before you A grant agreement, right, thank you. From the Office of Traffic Safety, we were awarded a grant funding that's gonna purchase new extrication equipment for us. So we'll have that for you for the next meeting. And then general just hoses and tools. A lot of our fire hoses are getting old. You know, we break them quite often during the course of doing business. Usually every fire, you know, whether it be a vehicle fire or a grass fire or structure fire, we usually lose at least one piece of hose during each event. Usually they just pop or get torn or damaged to the point where we can't repair them anymore. So, those, you know, that's like an ongoing type thing, need to be replaced. And then hand tools, you know, power saws, chainsaws, airbags, all those things that we use kind of infrequently are starting to show their age as well. That's all I have on my list.
And just to add, we do have a few grants out that we're waiting to hear on specifically for fire department needs, the fire truck, firehouse issues, et cetera. But as you see, and going forward, we will be bringing to the council a little bit of information on some of our needs so that, again, we could all understand what potentially we can use additional funds for if Measure S were to pass. If it does not pass, again, we have to figure out how to still take care of these outstanding needs. And so we will continue to look and seek out grants and continue to apply for them. But just want you to understand, these are kind of our priorities along with streets and maintaining our services and programs that we have in place now. So these are just some of our main outstanding issues as a city that we have to figure out how to fund or our unfunded projects / needs that we need to look at very closely, and how do we bring in additional funding for that. So that's all we have tonight. We'll entertain any questions that you have specifically to this item and go from there. Mayor? Susan?
Councilor, Lorraine, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, can we retrofit the building, the existing building to provide what you need to get done? I mean, termite cleanup, roof replacement. Is there a way to put a place for the guys to sleep in that building, or do we have to kind of start from scratch, I guess is my question.
I don't believe, I mean, and Patrick's been over a couple times too, and we've walked and we've talked, and we even had Louis come over at one point in time and do some sketches for us. I think it can all be done within the existing building. The sleeping quarters is the really tricky part. You know, if you handed me a blank check tomorrow, I would, you know, make the office area, reinforce that, put good walls up, seal that off in the apparatus bay. I would get rid of the trailer and actually build like an annex in the back lot that would house the sleeping quarters is probably the way I would do it.
Okay,
Just to make sure that we keep those two things separate.
okay, that was just my initial
Yeah.
question. Thank you.
Any other questions?
My question was very similar. Thinking positively and hoping that we will get the funding necessary. And looking that it does need to be, all the termite damage needs to be removed, and then there's gonna be a new roof. Is there a place that we could temporarily house the equipment if we were to take the roof off and just start, because it's gonna take a little while, it's not gonna be able to be done on a weekend. And I think that idea of taking down the trailer and building an ADU behind the fire station is like a prefab type of
Right.
a unit. I think that would be excellent.
So when the last time we had to leave the firehouse was when it got tinted last year before. Yeah, and what we did was we parked the engine here in the parking lot at City Hall, and the guys used the little break room in the back as temporary quarters while that was taking place. So we could do something similar, but remembering that the part of the roof that needs to be replaced is only the roof over the office area, not over the apparatus bay. So we could still keep the engines and everything in there and still be able to go in and out. We would just need a temporary office space.
Would that also then remedy the termite infested beams?
No, that needs to be done in the apparatus bay, but that's, a lot of that work is outside, and the work that's inside is pretty limited in scope. It's not like you're gonna have to tear the whole ceiling down and start over. It would
Oh,
be
okay,
just in pieces.
thank you.
So let's go to.
Yeah, I just have a question. The grant amount, what is the amount of the grant?
The grant amount that we just got notification on is about $48,000,
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe.
Thank you.
I have no questions. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to business from the public. Business from the public not on the agenda. Any member of the public may address the council for a period not to exceed 3 minutes on any item on the agenda. The council will listen to all communications, but will not make no comment and take no action.
All right, Henry Martinez Jr. Oh, I had a good day today at court and a couple of the other days too. District attorney is offering the people that were shooting fireworks, 1 year probation and no fine. So, yeah, I mean, that seems like a good deal for a lot of people. But hey, well, what I'm really here about is the August 1st meeting that I had when you guys had the police report about the 4th of July. And I came up here and specifically said those numbers were greased. There was no way. So this is what is it? Salinas Valley Tribune, the newspaper for Gonzales. This date is dated July 17th. On this paper, it says there was 12 calls for Gonzales only, not 32. Out of those 12, 8 of those were for fireworks. Out of those 8, 3 were for citation. So somebody explained to me how we got 32, 14 days later, 13 days later? When the paper reports from the police logs, someone is lying. Whether it's the police department or it's the newspaper, but somebody is lying. And to boldly put it in a report, 33 calls, I see 12. So when are we gonna hold accountability? We're not. Because this will just get brushed underneath the table again and pretend like it never happened. So something needs to be done. Either that report needs to be corrected or the Tribune needs to come out and say they were wrong. But I don't think the police logs are wrong. So I don't know. So I'm here to back up my story, and I ain't a liar.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Henry Martinez, taking my stance against military use equipment. I was walking the other day at the wharf, walked by the lady who was selling these shirts. She loved when I say make love, not war. And she saw our video of the officers. And I told her, yeah, I am against military use equipment for a small town of 8,000 people. You guys approved last 2 weeks ago to buy 8 new rifles, military equipment. And when our fire department can use that money, because when do we need high-power rifles for this small town with no crime? Unless, again, is he fraudulently writing reports that the city is safe? That we do not know, the citizens, that we're not told that there's a lot of shootings everywhere, that they need so many high-power rifles? I thought we were safe. I thought we got an award for the safest city of the year. Yet you guys continue buying untrustable police officers who showed time and time that they're willing to shoot people. Because the incident where they shot Valdez in the head was overuse of power. They could have used batons. If we didn't have the stun guns then, they could have used the batons, stand both sides of the door, have the third officer standing in front of the door 5 feet away saying he's coming out the door, he's out the door now, and both officers swing at the same time. They could have used non-lethal weapons. The other incident was they emptied their clips on a criminal on the freeway and shot vehicles that went by. You know, they're trigger happy. They're willing to show their aggression. You can see the video, how aggressive that officer is. Where I took 2 hits. I'm glad he hit me because I stand up for my convictions and I got what I needed to be more noticeable in the community of use of military weapons. So I'm gonna be pushing more and hopefully I get these groups to come into Gonzales to help me protest military use equipment. And I hope I do not attract anarchists. That's the last group I wanted them to bring to Gonzales. Those are the ones that, you know, riot and do all the things. That's what I might attract, and I don't want to do that. So I'm hoping that you guys would change.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone else wishing to make a public comment? No? Marisol, do we have anyone via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Thank you. Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close this part of the meeting and bring it back to council for further comments. We're going on to the consent agenda. If all members have had opportunity to review that, I'll entertain a motion, or if you'd like to pull an item, you may do so at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 7, please.
Item number 7 is pulled.
I also have a question on item number 7.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead let's go ahead and mass those comments, and that way we can hopefully move the consent items all along at the same time. Go ahead and ask your question. She had pulled it, so she'll
That's fine.
start,
Yeah.
and then you can ask your questions. Okay?
Okay, my question is related to the amount of money that we're supposed to, that you have in your report. The city expects to receive approximately $226,000 in SB funding. Do we anticipate that we will be using all that money? And if we don't use all that money, will it be allocated to something else? I guess is my question.
So I have not run a cost estimate on the work for these 2 blocks, and clearly the first block of 4th Street needs to be resurfaced. And then this block probably just a slurry seal. So I've not run a cost on this. I'm gonna engage one of the roadway consultants that I recently got a proposal from to prepare a detailed one. But to answer your question is yes, if it's more than enough, we can allocate it to another project.
Okay, perfect. Well, and part of the reason why I also wanted to pull it was because I wanted to showcase it to the community so that everybody knows that Public Works, we were able to get this funding, and everybody has been very concerned about 4th Street and cleaning it up. So I thank you for that, Patrick. So, and Carmen. So that's all I have for question.
So let's go.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. A few years ago, we had a presentation on streets that were being repaired and sort of a calendar of when they would be repaired. Is this part of that work that's going to be done? Is that the ongoing repair project?
So there's a couple of road maintenance projects. So for instance, several years ago, we used a lot of we did road work in a number of the assessment districts, and we basically cobbled different funding sources together. And I believe it even included a little bit of Measure K. I don't think it did not include this funding because we've used SB1 money for the Gloria Iverson paving project of 5 or 6 years ago. So that we used SB1 money for this. This is the first time that SB1 money is basically returning available to us to spend on other projects. In my mind, we would have this project, and then we would have other maintenance projects in the assessment districts that have funding for it.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
That's all I have.
Great.
All right. Any additional questions? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the whole consent calendar.
So move.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to the regular agenda items. Consider approval of proclamation number 2024-06, proclaiming September as the City of Gonzalez's Community Beautification Month.
Yes, Mayor, council members. So I bring to you the consideration of proclaiming September as the City of Gonzalez's Community Beautification Month. We've heard plenty how not only the community, but council members want to really look at different ways that we can beautify the community and hold people accountable, make sure that people are cleaning up their space, et cetera. In an effort to create more vibrant communities, communities across the state and nation take on initiatives that adopt community beautification. So I found that it may be applicable here in the efforts that we are trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and just cleaning up, making Gonzalez a nice, nice, clean community. Measure K has allocated a bit of funding for it. It's only $5,000, but we'll do what we can with it. And so again, in an effort to entice people to keep their areas clean, safe, and work together to unify the community in different activities, whether that's doing a neighborhood cleanup, cleaning up their own front yard, whatever it is, just keeping our community looking decent and nice. I bring forth the opportunity to proclaim September as Gonzalez's Community Beautification Month. As you'll see in your staff report, and that's what staff is recommending at this time, just take an action, formalize an action to, again, entice and encourage folks to help in keeping our community clean.
All right,
Great.
I'm gonna go ahead and open this up to public comment. Anyone wishing to comment on this item may do so at this time.
All right, Henry Martinez Jr. You loved my word last time. Unfortunately, everything on this side of the freeway is trashed. We got dead trees, we got trees overgrown, you got sidewalks with grass going about 3 feet almost. And nothing's done, and a lot of this is the city's responsibility. So how are we gonna beautify that? And then on Center Street, you guys built these trenches, which the same thing too, 3-4 foot tall weeds. Who's responsible for that? I'm pretty sure the residents are not, because they didn't ask for it. I saw kids playing in those trenches. I thought that's supposed to be for what, water to go out? I have no idea what's going on here. Yeah, 4th Street, it's a mess. You got sap all over the sidewalks. You got just dirt, even the streets down to almost the dirt. This is way too much work, and to call this this beautify Gonzalez? No, it's just not gonna happen. You got Alta Street coming in from the freeway, littered with potholes. Thank you for responding so quickly. I called the city because there was one that was about 3 feet and about almost 1.5 feet deep, and cars were hitting that at full speed. So I don't know what we're beautifying. I don't get it. I've been asking for this for months, and now we decide we're gonna do something, and not even a guarantee that we're gonna do it. It's just an initiation to put it out there that we're gonna do something about it. It's not gonna get done. I just happen to be cutting my trees down this month to be this. Well, I'm not part of this though, but it's just my yearly maintenance that I gotta do to take care of the trees that you guys put in front of my properties, because somehow it's my responsibility. But hey, my trees look better than the trees that are across the street from me. So I don't know what are we doing now with this? We can't hold what the owner's responsible. I had a tree blocking the whole sidewalk. Took me 6 weeks to get somebody to come out there, cut it. They tried to get a hold of the owner. Owner wasn't responding. So nothing got done. So I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and a lot of trees that need to be pruned, and a lot of it needs to be done now before eventually one of them fall over and then you got an accident.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, there you are. I was wondering where you were.
Okay, Gonzales was built under small town look. We pride ourselves back in the days that downtown was beautiful. The road was paved, and now you go down Fourth Street, the road's bad. And then the planning, the planners, all that is bad. And then the alleys, there's still trash down the alleys. And then you can't blame us residents for some of the details because the fire, Jason and I were working on Pedrosa about the overgrown weeds, and they still got overgrown weeds on their property. The problem is these investors from out of town, which we call out of town landlords, who just raise their rents, to raise whatever, they never put anything back into their places. Did you ever get a hold of those person that owns the apartments? Because you didn't get back to me if you did or didn't. Yeah, and I think the city is supposed to send them a bill for cutting the trees and the weeds in the 4-foot section. And, I thank Jason for taking care of that, but we need to make these investors more responsible. That if they're gonna be buying and renting property in our towns, they should be held liable. And contact numbers for them to contact, because he tried for how many months? So many months to get a hold of the landlord. He went numerous times to talk to the tenants. I don't think the tenants even had their phone numbers because they changed owners so many times. So we need to make these out-of-towners more accountable, and our city will stay cleaner. Because like I said, there's still weeds in the back of on the yard side, from the front street to the back of the apartments. There's weeds 3 feet tall, or we're 3 feet now because they're drier, they fell. We need to look at getting these out-of-towners, investors to take care of their properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment on this item? Seeing no one else, then I'll go ahead. Marisol, do we have any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Thank you. Mary, any comments via?
No comments via email.
We'll bring it back. I'll close the public meeting. I'll bring it back to council. You don't really need, you need a motion to approve? Is that what you're looking for?
To approve the to adopt the proclamation of September being.
Oh, sorry. Comments from the council?
I actually have a
Okay.
couple. I know that we're doing this and I'm really excited about doing it. It's something I've been talking about for months as well. And I agree that there needs to be some accountability from some of these homeowners. I'm wondering if it's possible, this is just a question, to have some flyers made up. I mean, I would be willing to drop these flyers off at people's houses and to let them know, because one of my concerns, and I know we've tried to do this ourselves just in our little circle, is to try to kill the weeds that are in the streets. So like all the people that have not the weeds that are in people's house area, but where the street is and the sidewalks, just take some weed killer and kill it. The city can't do every single place. I mean, I understand that, but if we all pull together and we try to do something as a collective, perhaps maybe we can get some things done. I've already started, if somebody's walking down the street and they have dogs and they don't have a bag, I give them a bag. If we can all kind of work on that sort of thing, I'm willing to buy a bunch of dog poop bags. I've actually pulled over 3 or 4 people and they say, I've got my bags. So that's cool. But that's what we have to do. Instead of complaining about it, we all have to work together as a collective. So I don't know if it's possible, Carmen, to do some kind of flyer. And I would be willing to take them to each of the houses myself. I think we could probably get a group of people to do that.
We are gonna do banners. We could do flyers. I mean, we're gonna put it in staff report, city manager's report, utility bills, et cetera. I mean, we
Okay.
could do flyers and if it's just letting people know, here's what you could do to support beautification month, that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. We could definitely do that. And, I don't see any issues with printing flyers that you would pass out because it's, yeah, I think that would be fine.
Because I think we all have to work together as a community. We can't just sit here and complain about it. We have to do something about it. I started doing something about it myself personally. So perhaps if we do that, I mean, I'm willing to step up, and I know all of us up here would be willing to step up and do that.
Absolutely.
So I make a motion. Oh,
Well,
Liz has a comment, sorry.
Hold that thought, Lorraine.
I get excited.
I think I agree with you. It is the responsibility of the residents. It would be nice to encourage the homeowners that are absent from town, but I don't think it's something that we have jurisdiction over. I don't think it's the responsibility of the Public Works Department. It's the person, whoever lives there, to take care of the surrounding area, which includes the weeds, the tree trimming, and especially when people are wanting to walk, sometimes they've had to duck or go around trees. I've done that myself. And I did notice though, over the last week or so, that a lot of our residents have been trimming their trees that seem to be growing over and maybe hitting their vehicles on the street and whatnot. So I applaud them. I have seen Public Works, they go out and they get all the trimmings and then they take it and chip it. So I think just the responsibility to me is the resident, not necessarily the owner. And it would be nice to encourage the absent owners, but I just don't think that's going to happen. The triplex that is next to my house is owned by someone out of town, and they have a local management company that has done very well. They've really improved the looks of the front yard, and they've kept the weeds down. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cracks on First Street, so there are a lot of weeds that are coming up right now. And my husband goes out and does what he has to do to spray them to keep them at bay. So I too want to keep our town looking nice. If it's the planters, to me, the planters that are on Center Street from the park north, yeah, they're kind of, I did take pictures of them in previous years and noticed a lot of weeds, but I do know that Public Works does go out there and does do the weeding. And I know there are some children that do play in the one particular one between 7th and 8th Street. But, you know, those were meant for a certain purpose. And unfortunately, weeds grow where the dirt is. And, but I think if we can all just kind of step in, if we see weeds growing that's a public area. If we see weeds, you know, pull it out. I mean, it doesn't take much.
Yep.
So anyhow, those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Mr. Roscoe, do you have any comments as well?
I just wanted to say that a few years ago, I worked for a program called the JAZZA program for the city of Salinas. And one of the things that we were able to do is sometimes get free paint. Now, I don't know if Salinas Valley Recycles does the free paint, or they have paint available, but I know that we used to get it. I don't know if it was from Marina or Salinas Valley Recycles, but that sometimes was a big help in just painting, whether it was a fence or somebody who couldn't afford paint and just wanted to paint their home. So maybe that's something that we can look into. And we also used to do neighborhood cleanups, and we would provide the containers for the neighborhood cleanups, and it was done by districts. Each council member would have their day of when they would be in a neighborhood cleanup in their area. So again, something to think about. Thank you.
The only comments I had, and I've brought this up at council before, is, you know, we've heard the comments about the dead trees. I think it's simply being pulled. And like I said, we have the equipment to do it. Take the backhoe bucket, wrap it around with a chain on the tree, and pop the tree out. No tree is better than a dead tree, because if you're not seeing a dead tree, out of sight, out of mind. So that's the only comments that I'll make on that. Okay, now I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve proclamation number 2024-6.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the next item. Public hearing to consider adoption waiver of, reading and reading by title only, ordinance number 2024-146, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Gonzales, amending chapter 3.16, purchasing procedures of Title III, Revenue and Finance of the Gonzales City Code to increase the bidding requirements threshold for the purchase of supplies and equipment from 5,000 to 50,000. Staff report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, you have a public hearing this evening for, ordinance 2024-146, which, as you just indicated by reading the title into the record, will increase the current bidding threshold, for the purchase of supplies and equipment from $5,000 to $50,000. So in other words, instead of having to go out to bid for the purchase of those items that are less than $50,000, the city will be able to handle these on an administrative basis. The item, you had a full report, as I indicated at the last meeting when it was introduced. You need to conduct your public hearing today, receive any comment, and then consider adoption, waiver of reading, read by title only. I will note that there was a question at the last meeting as to who had the authority or control to actually exercise this purchase. And it is the designated purchasing officer in the city of Gonzales, which by default has always been the city manager. So this particular section of the code has numerous references to the purchasing officer shall, the purchasing officer, blah, 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 blah. The purchasing officer, as I've indicated, at least the last 33 years has always been the city manager. So in other words, that person acts as the clearinghouse for all purchases that are made pursuant to this particular exemption to the bidding requirement. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Otherwise, the council should go ahead, open the public hearing, take any comment, close the hearing, and then discuss and consider adoption.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open this to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item may do so at this time. I don't see a rush to the podium, so okay. I will go ahead and ask Marisol, do we have any comments via Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public comment period, bring it back to council for discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. I just lost it here. Consider adoption waiver of reading and reading by title only, ordinance number 2024-146.
Second.
Second,
Yeah,
all right.
great.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That was
Moving on to the last item. Thank you, Maria. The last item here is consider awarding a construction contract to Sierra Construction and Excavation, Inc. for the industrial wastewater pipeline. Contract B, authorizing task order number 2 with Dudick Consulting, and C, authorizing task order number 2 with MNS Engineering. And unfortunately, Ms. Orozco had to leave because she has a Zoom meeting at 6:45. And you don't mess with a bishop. So I'll go ahead and have a staff report.
Mr. Dobbins is gonna go ahead.
Great.
Okay.
Mayor, council members. Awarding this contract to construct the industrial wastewater pipeline is a super major milestone along the path of the city expanding its wastewater system. I guess I'm going to pause. So Mike, did they receive the resolution? Okay, so it's just important, I was going to say this further on, but Mike Rodriguez, when reviewing the packet, basically noticed or said, no, we need to have a resolution for this. So that's what's has been distributed. Mike reviewed that earlier today. It's good to go. So now I'm going to back up just bit of background. 3/4 of the flow to the city's wastewater plant is from 3 processing facilities in the business park. And this ag wash water does not play well with the domestic sewage once we hit the treatment plant and go through a biological treatment process. So through the preparation of a long-term wastewater management plan, the city determined that construction of an industrial wastewater system was a cost-effective way to expand the city's wastewater system. So it's better to treat them separately than together. So the industrial wastewater system is going to collect the egg wash water from these processing facilities and convey it to the new treatment facility to be constructed on city-owned property just east of the existing wastewater plant. It's important to mention that we're talking about the first phase of this project. So it's 1 million gallon a day. The future phase will have capacity of 3.5. So the pipe is size 3.5. The site has been laid out for 3.5. I think it'll be really interesting to see how quickly we go from 1 million gallon a day to 3.5 million gallon a day, or whatever the number is in between. So again, phase one will be constructed under 2 contracts. The pipeline, that's the contract in front of you this evening. That's a 10,000-foot pipeline connecting the business park, the 3 facilities in the business park, and then getting up to Furman Lane and paralleling the existing 21-inch pipeline. We will bid the other contract for the treatment facility in December or January timeline. And one among the reasons is we can't really do much work out at the site until we get through winter. So we'll be building this pipeline in advance of that. So now a little closer to today's date. On July 16th, we received the fully executed $29 million state revolving fund loan for the project construction. We've worked on getting that loan over a 2-year period. Loan rate is 1.7%. It'll be paid back through city sewer rates over a 30-year term that begins when the project's complete. So the plans, technical specifications, cost estimate for the industrial pipeline project were prepared by Duda Consulting. I need to make some comments on the cost estimating, which I consider as much of an art as a science. So 3 years ago, they said, oh, we think this pipeline is going to cost about $7 million. About 3 months ago, they said, oh, our updated cost estimate's about $12 million. And I was not happy to hear that. And I did not want to put a project out on the street. So construction manager Megan Panofsky of M&S, who's been our construction manager since March, did an independent cost estimate working with a contractor and arrived at an estimate of between 9 and 9.5. So that's what we put out on the street as we think the cost estimate. And I like giving ranges to contractors. And among the reasons is this in their wheelhouse? Is this too small? Is this too big? It's good to at least give them some guidance on what do we think the cost estimate is. So again, we issued this project for bid on June 27th. We held a pre-bid meeting on July 10th, and it was attended by 6 contractors. This allows them opportunity to ask questions, view the project alignment. I also say it allows us to explain the project background, things that maybe we can't put into a bid document. What's the need? What's the urgency? Things of that nature. Maybe, comments about the funding source and the requirements. So I do want to mention other efforts in the bid phase included, we issued 5 addendums that responded to bidders' questions and clarified the bid document. We prepared for the bid opening by preparing the bid tabulation spreadsheet and a checklist of all the documents that have to be submitted with a contractor's bid. And then lastly, the city surveyor staked the project alignment and the outside edge of the easements along Furman Lane so that contractors could see the alignment. On August 6th, we received bids from 5 contractors. The table's in your staff report, but I'm going to rattle it off from high to low. Interesting spread. So Monterey Peninsula Engineering, $15.3 million. I'm not quite sure why they bid this project. Because then Anderson Pacific, $8.9 million. Specialty Construction, $8.2 million. Ranger Pipeline, 7.8. And our low bid, the contract that we're recommending approval to execute a contract is Sierra Construction Excavation, $7.6 million. These are excellent bids in our opinion. And it's it's interesting to point out that there's 3 tight bids here between 1, 2, and 3. That's actually, there's a 7% spread. And then between bidder 1 and 2, it's 2.5%. So what that demonstrates is clarity of the construction documents, that they're able to, they're able to make very educated, this is what we think this is going to cost, or this is the quantity, this is what it's going to cost, things of that nature. So it's really great to see tight bids, especially in 1, 2, and 3 places, for instance. And yes, you do not want to receive one bid. You have nothing to compare it to. Let's see. So city staff and M&S Engineers, who's our construction manager, reviewed the bid from Sierra Construction, determined it was the completely responsive and responsible. So it's the lowest responsive and responsible. So what's responsive? Responsive is they filled out the bid document completely. They didn't leave anything out. They have the experience. And then the responsible part is they've done this work. So they've clearly have a history of doing work in this order of magnitude, $10 million pipelines and things of that nature. So therefore, staff is recommending the city council award the construction contract for this project to Sierra Construction and Excavation. And in addition, we recommend approval of task orders for consultant services to support construction of this pipeline. And the first one is task order 2 under master service agreement with Duda Consulting for design support during construction, the amount of $292,000 with a contingency budget of $38,000. So Duda is the designer of record, and they provide design support. So as the contractor makes submittals, oh, here's a valve I'm going to submit. Oh, here's the pipeline I'm going to submit. That actually goes to the designer to review and determine that, yes, this is an acceptable, this absolutely meets what was specified. If they submit on an alternative, it'll be considered. And that's again what the design engineer does is review the submittals. The other task order is task order 2 under the master service agreement with M&S Engineers. Task order 1 was actually bid phase support. So what we've worked through. And so this is task order 2, which is the construction management and inspection, an amount of $750,000 with a contingency budget of $57,244. Both proposals are attached to the staff report. It's important for me to mention that we are going and obtaining the easements. We had a Zoom call with Tony Lombardo this morning regarding Taylor Farms. Everybody's very, they understand the need for the project. They are on board with granting the easements. We need to go through the process of we've provided them with the appraisals that Paini Realty prepared, so they understand the value. Diorigo completely on board. If anything, they provided us with basically an email with 10 comments. These are the things that we'd appreciate your construction manager being on top of during construction. And an example is, contractors' crews not driving more than say 10 miles an hour, water the work area, the pipeline area, keep the dust down. Another one is let us know if you come across irrigation lines that we need to move and things of that nature. So it's been great working with the property owners. We will not issue, we're going to execute this contract, but any notice to proceed with the construction has to wait until we execute these easements, which will happen over the next month. I mentioned the schedule. Tonight, staff recommending executing the agreement. We'll execute the construction contract in about a 2-week period, hold a pre-construction meeting towards the end of September, and everything's predicated or set around a November 4th start. And that's been communicated to the property owners out there because they have to make some adjustments to their fields, where we may take 4 or 5 rows out as we go along Furman Lane, and that's all baked into the appraisal. So lastly, and just staff making a recommendation that's in your packet, award the construction contract to Sierra Construction and Excavation. Direct the city manager to oversee the preparation of the final contract with city attorney assistance. The amount is $8.5 million, which is a contingency budget of $889,825. Contingency budgets for unanticipated field changes. And then, as you already heard, authorized task order 2 with Dudek in the amount of $292,664, and authorized task order 2 with M&S Engineers for the construction management in the amount of $750,000. So that's the resolution in front of you. That's resolution 2024-55. Again, huge milestone to expand our wastewater system. Yes, this represents $9.5 million in contracts. This is what we this is the big step to build the pipeline. That concludes my presentation, Mayor.
Great, thank you. We'll go ahead and open this up to the public for anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item may do so at this time. Seeing no rush to the podium, then I'll go ahead and ask Marisol if we have any comments via Zoom.
No comments via Zoom.
Mary, any comments via email?
No comments via email.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close the public comment period and bring it back for council discussion. And Ms. Worthy and Ms. O, go ahead. I'll let Ms. Worthy go first since she had her hand up first. Sorry.
Mine is strictly a silly question.
Oh.
Because it's all here. Why is there such a big gap?
Oh, between,
Yeah.
okay, well,
I just wanted to. Why?
so,
They didn't want to do the work.
no, well, no, I think so let's see, a couple of things. One is that, well, what if the city only gets one bid and they really need to move forward with it? We're the only game in town, okay? The other comment is, and I can't, yes, we do a deep dive into the bid tab and to see their unit price per foot compared to the other unit prices. It's like, do they think we're doing this at an airport, or meaning, restricted, and there's really limited, there's no pavement on this job. Okay, yes, it's a deep pipe. Okay, it's a very deep pipe. But then the other comment is, so the day of the bid opening, we open at 2. At 11 a.m., I got a call from one of the Bruno brothers at MPE saying, "Oh, can you share the appraisals with me? Because, yes, you're giving us 50 feet, but we think we need another 30 feet. And I shared the appraisals with him just so we could see the land value. And what goes through my head is, this is a question to be asked about a week before the bid opening, not 3 hours before the bid opening. So I can't speak to the rest of, if anything, it's like, we need to ignore the amount or the bid from Monroe Peninsula Engineering being double the low bid, right? No, it does not make sense.
Well, I mean, when I saw it, because I read it in the report, I was like, how can there be such a huge gap? I mean, the rest of them seem
Yes.
very fine, and we always have to.
I have a lot of peace with how close the 1, 2, and 3 are, and it's great to see where number 4 is, okay? Again, we were very pleased to have 6 contractors at the pre-bid meeting. Okay, we've got some interest, and we definitely spread the word, and M&S engineers are doing a terrific job, outreach. And they went to a number of plan rooms, and we had contractors on the list when we issued it. And we let them know ahead of time. And then the example of that might be, so McGuire Hester is the civil sub on the community center site. They're doing the underground work there. And so they were made aware of this early on. And I turned to the gentleman last week. We didn't get a bid from McGuire Hester. It's like, well, I shared it with the estimating staff. That's all I can do and all that. So it's just interesting. Yeah, they're doing work here in town. For whatever reason, and some are busy, some aren't so busy. So yeah, no, interesting to see. And I have to say, or I'm going to close with this to say, well, I'm glad I didn't open that one first, because I would have liked, where's this going to go? And I guess my other silly comment is, I enjoy bid phases, and I always find bid openings very, very interesting. And the basic is like, do we have a project and all that? And yeah, we have a project here.
This is an important project, so.
Right.
I have to add, we were doing the happy dance when it came under 9. So
Yeah.
Patrick and I were very excited.
Skip around the room.
Thank you.
Ms. Silva.
Yeah, I think if you had opened that one first and that would have been the only one, we'd still be picking you up off the floor.
Yes.
With regards to the timeline, you're estimating the timeline will begin around November 4th. And how long do you think the project will take?
So on the order of 8 months.
Okay,
And just another piece of information. So July 2025. Fingers crossed. And it certainly depends on,
okay.
so what kind of winter are we going to get? What are the conditions going to be like out on Furman Lane? And one of my quips is, fingers crossed, we've gone through 2 wet winters. I hope we don't have a 3rd wet winter in a row. What else? Oh, I think it's also important to say that they're going to start at the west end, and pipeline contractors work uphill. And so they're going to start at the west end and come east along Furman Lane, and then basically go, what is it, between the 2 turbines? Anyway, they cross a farm road and then work their way down to Catherine Street. But we're completely in dirt.
And you mentioned something about you may have to take out 4 rows. of a
Yes.
field, they will go back into production after the pipeline is put in, correct?
That's exactly right. And so, and so what, Pioneer Realty prepared in their appraisal is, okay, we're gonna start November 1st. We're gonna pay you for 6 months, and then we're gonna pay you for another 6 months to get this field, this section of field back in production. So they are getting a year of compensation to use in basically a 6 to 8 month project. So they are being compensated to what, I don't know if it's rehabilitate or rework that land.
Okay. Thank you.
But again, we're working along a 50-foot easement.
The rototiller. With that, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution, unless you had something to add.
No, no.
Resolution number 2024-55 as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's get started.
A resounding aye.
Yes, yes. Get a little behind here. Gonzalez Youth Council updates.
I will start off. So good evening, everyone, council. As of right now, we're currently in the process, we finished the process of outreach for our council. Today was the last day for application submissions. Really excited to hear everyone's responses and overall prepare for orientation and interviews. We hosted presentations in the middle school. I felt like that was very successful and also very exciting to see how it's not just the high school, but 8th graders who are actually invested in being a part of the youth council. I know that was kind of an issue. We were thinking like, oh, well, who's going to be interested? But overall, we did see interest, and we hosted an event that Valeria will be talking about with application assistance.
Yeah, and on Friday last week, on Friday, we had an application assistance session where we talked with a couple of students, most of them from middle school, but we did have like, I believe, a group of 5 band kids and like all in high school, and they were all wondering about the Gonzalez Youth Council. Emily talked to them. We had given them paper applications, but essentially during the session we had talked to them about what the GYC is, answered the questions, going through the application. Some of them had like concerns about recommendations, like who can recommend me to be in the youth council. We had pizza and also some water, so everybody was well fed. We did run out, so we're noting to bring more pizza next time. But it was a good time. The space was, we were there till I believe 5:20, so we weren't there for too long since we were there since like the after school, so like 5:30 to 5:20. But by 5 it was mostly like everybody was gone to just clean up. But we have some success. We did do our report too at the school board meeting for the GYC, which also went well. And we have right now, yeah, as Emily mentioned, to kind of summarize, we're doing the interviews this week as well, and we're going to start finalizing our plans for orientation and our plans for this upcoming GYC and like the schedule. So yes. Yeah,
Any questions? No?
I actually have one question. When you, or not question, maybe just a comment. When you guys get settled in, and you get your meeting started and all that, can you let us, usually I know that you guys let us know, but I think it would be a good thing for periodically for the council members to attend. And I would really like to attend this year to kind of see what you guys are doing and that sort of thing. And maybe consider discussing with the GYC to help out, maybe with our beautification somehow. I was thinking that might be a good thing for the students to get involved in, because it is their town too. So just a little comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. I was actually thinking about that with the beautification month that we were talking about. When I talked to a couple students, I know they mentioned beautification, but the only thing that's kind of like questions me is that we plan orientation on the 21st, meaning our first meeting would be kind of at the end of September, which would kind of finalize the month. But overall, Yeah, of course, I totally agree. Like,
Yeah, and I also think the high school has the Interact Club, and if you could, this could be mentioned to them, and there could be like some projects for beautification as well. But we would also encourage our youth council members as an option for an action item.
Thank you. All right, moving on to council business. This is, reporting back on several of the commissions that we are members of. And so I have the first couple. The first one is the Transportation Agency. And what I have to report on that, I'll tell you, it was one of the most interesting, transportation agency meetings that I've had the pleasure of attending. The major discussion was the Highway 101 corridor, Salinas to Gonzales, and the improvements that are hoped to be seen in the very near future. Be honest with you, I was a little like, aw. So the environmental impact report, they feel they can maybe do it between 2 to 3 years. Of course, before anything gets moving. They have talked with the Chular community because that will be very heavily impacted by the improvements. And the two items that I found of most interest was that there will be a new overpass in Chular. And the thought is to put it on the north end of town to get it from being right dead center of town. Because when it's right dead center of town, it really kind of bogs everybody down. Thought that was an interesting concept. The other one is to do something at the Abbott Street. Because right now, the way that is designed is you have merging traffic coming onto the fast lane. It's, as you know, normally merging traffic goes into the slow lane. So again, that's going to look at an overpass. And then, of course, the comment was brought up, or the question was brought up, how will that impact the new Amazon distribution center? Well, apparently Amazon has already paid all the traffic impact fees, and I guess they were pretty sizable. And if any of you, I'm blind, but I actually could see the orange fencing that's been designated around the proposed construction site, and that is going to be monstrous. 72 acres? Wow. Wow, I can see that. So not only are you going to have all the freight liners that are going to come in to drop off material, but then you're going to also have all the distribution vans that are going to be coming out of that facility. And from the sounds of it, 24/7. And I'll tell you what, Amazon is becoming a monster. My son ordered something for my wife on a Sunday. She had it here on a Monday.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And if they're in Salinas, I'm assuming they might even look at drones as delivery, around, because certainly sounds very feasible to do that.
About them coming until I saw what it's gonna look like. And then I got a little nervous.
Yeah.
Hollister?
Have not seen them in a house.
You have to go see the one in Hollister to get a feeling for how big that is.
Okay.
It's over, I believe it's airline or 25 someplace on the north end of Hollister.
Right at the
Yeah,
airport?
It is
Massive.
massive.
Okay.
And massive is a small word.
And when the trucks, the big giant semi trucks are going down the same roads as the Amazon
On
trucks.
the turbo roundabout.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crazy.
So that was very exciting to hear. Of course, like you said, it's 3 years for 2 to 3 years. My guess is more like 3 years based on historically what I've seen with environmental impact studies. And then the intent is to start closing off all the middle dividers with, of course, some options on how to get to Potter Road and Spence Road. But, hopefully we won't have any more head-on collisions, hopefully within the next 10 years. I may be long gone before all those improvements are made, but at least they've started. There were a number of landowners that had come to the meeting that basically said, yeah, we're on board with this. We've discussed it at length, and we know it's that we need to do this. Lives matter more than land. So it was a really good feeling and understanding from that we're really working together with the farming community. So it isn't down your throat. You're going to get this whether you like it or not. As we were driving south, Mayor Labar and I looked over to my right and I says, hey, Mayor, I hope we don't make the same mistake that we made with 156. He says, what do you mean? I said, do you realize that that is electric transmission line that's going right along the freeway? And I know for a fact, there's a gas transmission line that literally goes through the middle of Gonzales that goes right along railroad tracks. Ballpark, just to give you an idea, when I was a new business rep, someone said transmission, automatically I'd say it's $500,000 engineering deposit. And we got 2 transmission lines. So I'm hoping that Caltrans takes it into account this time. Unlike what they did with 156 and had only budgeted $500,000 to move transmission lines. This is the gas line that feeds all of Monterey Peninsula and electric transmission line that feeds the Castroville and northern Salinas. So anyway, they got a rude awakening when they were told that that cost was going to be $5 million to relocate those lines. Yeah, it gets expensive real quick. The other thing, and Lorraine, I think you'd be really interested in this. We had a rather long and very animated discussion on the surf project. So what we've come to the resolution is that, you know, we're gonna have to work with the Coastal Commission. There's no way around that. And they basically said, don't touch the dunes because that's a non-starter. So
We have some good news coming up about that. but
Good.
I don't want.
good. Well, we figured that whatever reworkings that design has to have, Carl's gonna have to take care of it.
Yeah.
But Tamsy's still behind that project. Of course, there was a number of very vocal citizens that were advocating for the rail. You know, my dad has been gone 33 years and he worked for the Southern Pacific Railroad, and it was closed before he passed. And I asked him, Pops, is there a way that we just put a train right back on there? If, you know, say somebody privately does it? And he says, sure, if they want to kill themselves. So what do you mean? He says, you know, railroad tracks are meant to maintain. And you can see the crews that work along the 101 corridor. Even back in those days, I never really saw anybody working on those.
tracks are not.
They are falling apart, really.
Yep.
Yeah. Basically, in order to get rail there, we would have to remove the entire railroad line and start anew. I understand that just the bridge that goes across the Elkhorn Slough is about $500 million to rebuild. So, and of course, I'm sure there'll be some environmental studies there to be done. So that was, like I said, one of the most lively and entertaining TAMSI meetings. I did not need coffee for that particular meeting. It was good. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. It went like this. The Mayor's Select Committee, we're actually hosting them this Friday, so I have nothing to report back from that. Okay, moving on to the next committee, Salinas Valley Recycles.
And our next meeting will be on Thursday, September 19th. I will not be here for that meeting, so Scott will represent at that meeting, and I have nothing else to report.
Okay, then we may have Measure K.
Okay, Measure K, we had a meeting was it last week, Carmen? I think it was. Yeah, we had presentations from last year's recipients. We had 5, I believe. Fantastic work. They all did great work. Particularly loved hearing the Salvation Army sending kids to camp. And that's always a great thing. A lot of these kids have never been to camp and able to see, you know, different locations, which was fantastic. Also, the guardians, the youth guardians continue to do good work. Obviously, Adventure Seeking Seniors is a good program. Cinco de Mayo, they spoke, and it was cute because Cinco de Mayo, they didn't have their slides right away, so they had to kind of improvise, and everybody did a fantastic job. So now we're getting ready for the new ones to come in, and we selected a new subcommittee. So the deadline is September 6th is the deadline for the new ones. So let's hope we get some really great ones again.
Okay, we're going to oral communications. So Ms. Worthy, would you start that?
I have nothing. I think
Okay.
I've spoken enough tonight.
Ms. Silva?
I have a couple of things. Has everyone gone by the community center construction site and seen all the changes that are happening? I go by every couple of weeks and take a few pictures. And I have to let you know that the family is excited. They're getting excited. They're letting us know. I understand that there is a relative of Janice's that's actually on the crew there. So he keeps them posted and spoke to his grandmother over the weekend, and I told her I've been taking pictures because I get excited about, and of course I get up to the chain link fence with my phone, and I try not to get the metal, but I get it in there anyway sometimes. But I'm getting very excited to see everything, all the changes that are happening. And I hope the community is getting excited as well. I think they are. And then the other transformation that's happening in our community that it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, but that's our stadium. Our stadium is also getting a big facelift, so I think if everybody wants to go take a look at that, they should as well. Hopefully, by this time next year, our football team will be able to utilize the field. This year, their home games are being played at Soledad High School. So, again, I'm excited. I see, especially when I saw the elevation coming up on a couple of, on the closest by the school, it was like, oh yeah, ooh, now it's taking shape. So, I don't get too excited about this stuff, huh? Also want to send a congratulations to all the local exhibitors from 4-H and FFA that were at the Monterey County Fair this past weekend. It ran from the 29th through yesterday. A lot of happy kids, took a lot of pictures over there. Of course, I'm over there almost every day as well. I'm on the Heritage Foundation, and a lot of good positive vibes. And so there was a lot of, our locals were there, and I enjoy seeing them grow up through the programs and do great things. So the whole fair was a huge success. It was good to see everything back together like the regular scheduled program was before the pandemic. Also wanted to mention that I did notice a posting on Facebook last night. Our supervisor, Chris Lopez, posted that he and his father-in-law erected a more permanent memorial for the Braceros that were killed in the awful train accident in 1963. I was a little girl when that happened. I do remember it vividly. And why we did it in those days. Our neighbor called my mom, says there's been a horrible train accident. We get in the car and we all piled in the car and drove over there. But then I think once we got there, both my mother and our neighbor realized that it was just such a sight that we didn't need to see. We really couldn't see what was happening other than we saw blankets and stuff over the bodies. But for those that don't know, there used to be several railroad crossings between Gonzales and Chular that crossed over to Folletta Road. This memorial was erected at Folletta at Broom Road, which is a little closer to Chular. And that's basically where the railroad crossing used to be. It was the labor bus that was full of workers and unfortunately did not get across the crossing and the train hit it. And it closed all the railroad crossings between here and Chular were eventually closed. And I think it also made a lot of changes in how field workers were transported to work. They were no longer transported in buses, or they were like box trucks. They just had solid walls. There was no windows. They could not ever see what was coming. So they didn't see what hit them. But that was September of 1963. So when y'all have a moment to take a drive out on Folletta Road, you will see it's a metal sign. It's in cement now. There was a sign erected by one of our residents. I called him Johnny Martinez, and many of our residents knew him as Juan Martinez, who is a huge advocate for the Braceros and the recognition that they received years and years later. And unfortunately, we lost Juan several years ago to cancer. So again, just take a moment when you have a chance and go see the memorial. I believe it was built by Buck Tugel, who has his business across the river, and Chris Lopez and his father-in-law erected it yesterday. So just remembering them and remembering as a little girl the tragedy that happened in this valley.
Well, I have a couple quick little things. I attended a 3CE meeting last week. The meeting was to discuss our current policy board is made up of 19 members. That covers from Santa Barbara up to Santa Cruz and including San Bernardino County. To say it's a little unwheeling is to put it mildly. Most of our quote unquote meetings, one item was to discuss whether we should go down from 19 to 11. It took from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I actually had to leave a little bit early. But when I left, they were still lip service. I'm sorry, it becomes really unruly to be on a board that large. And it's all made up of all the politicians, so a lot of people love to hear the sound of their voice. Anywho, I'm for a smaller board, to be honest with you. It becomes a little more workable. And I think that, two of the bodies that would be on there would be our county and the city of Salinas, simply because of the magnitude of population that they have. And I'm okay being represented by county supervisor and city of Salinas. I think I can't see them making a bad decision when it comes to energy. So I'm very comfortable with that. Even though we were one of the original founders of 3CE, you'd almost think that we should have a seat, just an honorary seat, but I'm like, no, I'm good with that. One less meeting. That, and then I wanted to just throw this out there, and I'm not sure how it can even be developed. So the city of Morgan Hill, if you're not aware of it, does have a low-income housing program. So they're deed restricted houses, and the restriction on those houses are for 45 years. If you sell before then, really you just get a little bit of your equity back out, and that's about it. The intent of that is they're trying to keep people in their community that really can't afford a house otherwise. And when most houses in that community start at $1 million, you got to do something to help people to be able to get into a quote unquote affordable housing. So between the county and the city, they essentially come up with about $350,000 as the down payment for that future homeowner. I was thinking, we've set up what's it called? When we set it up with the industrial park where, we get some money and we set it aside for affordable housing. What about this new Measure S? Why couldn't we set up $100,000 just as a start? Loan it out as a possible down payment for someone to purchase a little affordable housing at 1% interest. I mean, Santa Clara County they loan almost 250 at 0 interest. The city of Morgan Hill loans it out at, I believe it's a 1.7. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea. It's thinking outside the box. And, we're in such a community that we could probably have $1 million and never really even meet the needs of our community. But as a thought, $100,000 of that Measure S, set it aside for quote unquote low income affordable housing. In fact, maybe one of our firefighters is deciding instead of going to San Jose, he'll stay here. Just a thought. Just want to let you guys simmer on that. And, if you think all of you that think I'm crazy, that's fine. I'm sure there's more people like that, but we'll move on from there. All right, that's all my comments. And so I'll take comments from our city manager.
I only have 3 dates to put on your calendar. October 12th, Salinas Valley Health is having a community health fair at Central Park. So that's coming. October 26th is our fall festival. You'll hear more about that as we get closer.
My
And then-
birthday?
Yeah.
Having a
I
party
guess
for me?
So, I guess so,
Wow.
Mayor. We'll be out there.
Darn it. Disguising it as a festival, huh? I like it. I like it.
And November 2nd is another community gardening day at the community garden. So they were working really hard to align dates and unfortunately, that's the only date that worked for all those organizations. So no, that's November 2nd, but you'll hear more about those dates as we get closer. That's all I have.
Anything else from the good of the order?
I have 2 comments,
Okay.
Mayor Rios. Building on what Councilmember Silva said, the community center site, very busy site, great seeing all the different subcontractors out there. And, Friday, big deal, the slab pour for the foundation for the building A was done. They started at 5 in the morning. They were done, I think, late morning as far as placing all that concrete. And then site tour this Thursday for Councilmember Worthy and Silva. So then the other thing I want to mention, the MST circulator project. And so they, We had the kickoff meeting with Don Chapin, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or so. They were looking at late September. They had some work get delayed, so now they're looking at starting here in about 10 days. And I think,
saw them out there looking with their map and everything, and I assumed it was for the circulators. They were at an area that we had been looking at, so. Good.
they're getting ready. So yeah, so that date's moved up. That's it from me, Mayor Rios.
Thank you. Chief?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide some clarity on media logs, calls for service, et cetera, et cetera. What was reported regarding the stats on 4th of July is accurate. I stand by those numbers. We get those numbers from County Com. The media log is, it doesn't reflect all calls for service. What that media log reflects is case numbers generated based on calls for service, meaning something rises to the level of being media worthy, outside of your, barking dog calls or, traffic stops, things of that nature. If it doesn't generate a case number, it doesn't go on the media log, and therefore it's not sent to the media. So what's reflected in the media log for that date, the 4th of July is accurate. The media log reflects the calls for service that the case number was generated because of, and that's what that is. So it does not capture all calls for service and all things that have not been assigned a case number that day. Yeah, I can't control what the media puts out there. They put out what they put out, and they put out what we sent them in the media log, so. On that, and then speaking of media, since the story broke this morning, or this afternoon, actually, we had assisted the sheriff's department. You may or not heard already the active shooter in Prudendale this morning. Yeah, we assisted in sending our drone pilot and our drone up there because they didn't have one, and the suspect was safely taken into custody. He just went crazy, and started shooting like 80 animals up there in Prudendale. Yeah, a lot of them. So again, our drone proved useful in apprehending and identifying and securing the scene for safety of law enforcement and fire personnel, and medical personnel, and everything else. So we're hoping that yes, yeah, absolutely. So that's all I have.
Thank you. That's it? Okay.
That's all, folks.
Motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Stand adjourned.